Welcome back to Trending in Design. My name is Selena, and this is our 30 Days of Change series. Um, I started this series in the hope that you guys would um, tag me in your videos, like, share what I have, but just to kind of get our story out of the things that need to change. Um, for me, I'd like to start day 6, which you'll see that not every day there's a video. There may be a photo one day, maybe a video the next day, but they're symbolic of things that I feel that need to change. Today's story is based on that stigma of they act that way because they do not have a father or male figures in their life. For me, that statement couldn't be more wrong. I do have a father. My father has always been present. I act this way probably because my father was involved. My dad let me know things that I should not accept, um, and a certain standard as a woman that I should uphold myself. My dad is now deceased. This month it'll be 5 years that he's gone, but his lessons have never left me. Um, Not only that, but I kind of had bonus family. I have a stepmother and a stepfather. So I have two dads. Um, and my stepdad stepped up when my dad couldn't be there. Not that he didn't want to, he couldn't be there. And my stepdad was much as a father to me as my father. He was there over 20 something years. So was my stepmother over 20 something years with each parent. And I literally had two moms, two dads. Of course, that didn't take away from your biological parent. They're still your parent. But at the end of the day, um, my stepdad really took on a role as a second father. And when my stepdad couldn't be there or my dad couldn't be there, I had uncles or I had other males in my life that stepped in and were like, you know what? This is where I'm going to step in and show you what needs to be done. Don't get it twisted that I may have been somewhere I shouldn't have been, and an uncle was the one that pulled me out of that situation or was like, hey, what are you doing here? This is not for you. Um, but I think that that stigma, it's not always the case. So if I act a certain way, don't blame the men in my family. I act that way. Okay. Um, there's nothing wrong with, you know, somebody teaching you to be strong. Even in my worst moments with my father still was a father. He still parented. He looked at me, and it was a situation he put me in. And at that moment, I was like, you know what? You have to go. But my father looked at me in that moment and said to me, I couldn't be more proud of you. No matter what it is that I was putting him through, he looked at me and said, you know what? As messed up as this situation is, I am proud that you did not allow me or anybody else to damage the things that you've worked hard for. There are many times that, you know, people had many things to say about my father. Um, and depending on how you know him, people had different versions of the type of man that he was. For me, the only man that I knew was my father. The way he treated me, um, the things that he taught me, that's what I knew. Um, I didn't know of the other things that he did in his life. Why? Because my dad never kept secrets. Even up into his deathbed, um, he didn't keep secrets. He was open enough for me to know that anything that was happening during that time wasn't a surprise. I heard the whispers. I heard people saying things about my father, but not one person had the nerve to say that to me. Why? Because I want you to say that to me. Because whatever vision somebody else has of my dad, you have to understand is not how I see it. My dad wasn't a bad man. My dad, he lived his life according to the hand that was given. My dad was very young when he migrated to this country. Um, he didn't have all the education in the world, but please don't get it twisted that that did not make him smart. My dad made it a point to educate himself. He loved the People magazine because it had a crossword puzzle in the back. He wanted to keep his mind fresh. So, people that had been to college and everything else, they were surprised that a man that didn't have those opportunities still was smart enough to keep up with them. So there's so many different versions of what people would have to say about my father. But the only version that matters to me is the kind of man my dad was to me. And my dad was an amazing father. He wasn't there every day of my life because of the situations that, happened along the way. But my dad was there for every moment that was necessary. My dad encouraged me when I needed it. I still remember the first day that, somebody broke my heart. My dad didn't even know what was going on, but my dad knew that I was hurt. And all he did, and mind you, he wasn't an affectionate man. He'd come by, rub my head, and let me know that, he cared, but he wasn't an affectionate man. But when it was needed, he stopped what he was doing and gave me the attention that I needed to let me know that there was a male in my life that did love me. And again, this whole stigma of you act this way because you have no dad. I act this way because I have a dad. I act this way because somebody loved me enough to say, you know what? There are things that you will and will not accept in this life, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of where you come from, regardless if you have no money, you make it. My dad didn't have hardly anything in this life. And yeah, he turned to a lifestyle that maybe wasn't the most kosher according to what is okay in society. But the one thing that my dad never stopped doing was trying to give me the best life that I could have. He never stopped being a father. And again, even when he couldn't be there, he had enough respect out there that other men close to me stepped up and stepped in and said, you know what? This is not what he would want for you. I'm going to step in and I'm going to be your father at the moment. That can be very confusing. Don't get me wrong. But my dad never, even to this day, there's still things that come up in life as an adult, and I kind of go, he prepared me for that. He showed me what I needed to do. So for me, that whole stigma of you act that way because you don't have a dad or any male figures couldn't be wrong. Couldn't be more wrong. I should say, because it could not be more wrong. I act this way because this is how I act. And to me, it's not necessarily a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with being opinionated. There's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with telling people that they're not going to do certain things to you. And because of that, I think I live my life very protected in many ways. And because of that, I've always felt loved. So I think that we need to change the stereotypes that we have of each other. We need to change how we view each other. So that's one thing that I think needs to change.